Another game, Dalton, that is absolutely fascinating. The final one we're previewing today is Texas A&M at Florida, which is a 3:30 p.m. Eastern time game on ABC. The storylines to know is that these are two programs with really interesting quarterback situations right now. And quarterbacks naturally are always the players that people always pay the most attention to because they play the most important position on the field. But you need to pay even more scrutiny to the quarterbacks in this game. Florida currently embroiled in a quarterback battle between Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway. Mertz has infinitely more experience than Lagway. He's a redshirt senior, but he was rough against Miami in that season opener. He had 3 turnover-worthy plays. He had 6 all of last season, Dawn. So he had half of the turnover-worthy plays he had all of last year in just one game. He was concussed in that loss to Miami, which led to Lagway getting the start against Samford this past weekend. He was a top-ranked quarterback in the 2024 class, Dalton, and he showed why he was a 5-star in his first career start. 5 big-time throws in the win over Samford, and head coach Billy Napier confirmed this week that the Gators intend to use both of them moving forward. So that's one side of the ball. Other side of the ball, you got Connor Weigman, who is undoubtedly the starter for Texas A&M, but he's got to bounce back. He's the current number 1 quarterback on PFF Big Board right now for the NFL Draft. He had a rough showing against Notre Dame, though, with a 37.1 passing grade in the loss. And now, against Florida, who had a 51.2 coverage grade in the loss to Miami, this is the time where a lot of people are expecting Weigman to bounce back and show why he was a top quarterback prospect. And if he doesn't do that, then we got more conversations saying, hey, is he actually one of the top quarterbacks in the draft, or is he a guy that we should be moving down the big board a little bit?
This game is such a circus.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I have actually, like, obviously I can always come up with stuff and find stuff and data, but this is such a circus game. It's in the swamp with two teams that whichever one loses is going to be in something of a panic mode.
Yeah.
Right? You have both of them in week 1 went out and got just hammered. And I know the Notre Dame score with A&M was closer, but physically Notre Dame dominated that game and their defense was the best unit on the field. And we saw how Weigman played in that game. The stories are abound. I don't even know if we call it a quarterback battle in Gainesville, or I mean, Billy Napier said he's going to play both of them, which I don't know. I mean, usually you if you're playing 2 guys, you have 2 guys with completely different skill sets, and I know Lagway moves more, but I don't know where we're at with the Gators quarterback situation, honestly, because Lagway was so good last week, and I think he brings things to the table. Graham Mertz is a really good quarterback, and he doesn't lose you ball games, and normally he doesn't turn the ball over like he did against Miami, but at a certain point here, the Florida Gators have to start winning games. They've had 3 losing seasons in a row, and I didn't expect them to go out there and look the way they did against Miami. So the quarterback thing on both sides of this, this honestly, just for all of the circumstances surrounding it and how neither team played well in their first game of the year against a real team, I think this might be the most unpredictable game. I have no idea what to make of this on the whole. When you just go, okay, how's this game going to go in the swamp between these 2 teams? And I go, it could go any which way possible. Honestly, it's a weird one.
So both teams look rough in the season opener, and then both teams won the next game. But Florida played Samford and Texas A&M played McNeese State. So it's like this is the first time really since week 1 that we're seeing these 2 teams tested once again.
We had 2 weeks of practice essentially, and then we get to see them against each other. And I don't think they could be playing each other for both programs at a weirder time.
No.
Especially Florida. Look, A&M's under first-year head coach Mike Elko. I think he knew they were going to come in and have to work on things. There was a lot of turnover and a lot of fallout from Jimbo Fisher being fired and all of that. Florida, this could be a game that one way or the other changes their program. Yeah. Honestly, it's that big despite them already having a loss on the record.
So, Dawn, you had Connor Weigman in this game against the Florida defense. What should we be looking out for in his, hopefully for him, bounce-back game?
Yeah, look, we'll stay with the quarterbacks because that's the story in this game. Weigman, he's got tools. He's got a big arm. He's got a lot of potential. But we have yet to see him really show that against Power 5, Power 4, however many powers there are, competition in his career. And look, in the games in his career against Power 5 competition, a 59.9 passing grade compared to against non-Power 5 competition, could be G5, could be FCS. Against that competition, he's got a 94.5 passing grade. He looks like the best quarterback in the country. But it can't come crashing this far back down when you start playing equivalent opponents. Now, the Notre Dame game is one thing. That's one of the best defenses in the country, despite even the loss to Northern Illinois. That's one of the 3 to 5 best defenses in the country. A lot of quarterbacks are going to look like that against Notre Dame. But we've seen him last year before he got hurt against Auburn, kind of rattled, up and down against Miami. You could go back to the freshman year. It's kind of not fair because he's starting the last 5 or 6 games of his freshman year. But at some point, we have to see this ability in the games that matter, right? And you talk about non-Power 5 competition. Big-time throw rate, 9.7%. Power 5, 3.1. Turnover-worthy play rate almost doubles. Yards per attempt almost cut in half. The yards per attempt is 10.1 against non-Power 5 teams. So, clearly, when he has the opportunity and things are easy, it's very easy for him. He has the ability. And I think this Florida secondary, if you were going to do it against a Power 5 team, well, this Florida secondary is the one you want to do it against. I've shown you enough of the tape and the breakdowns on it. But no, I mean, look, there are reasons that the only team in the SEC last year with a worse coverage grade was Vanderbilt. And those trends just continued against Cam Ward in Miami. And I know Cam Ward in Miami look like a wagon right now, but it was the same thing. I saw the same thing. It was mistakes. I don't think it's that the Gators aren't talented. They make mistakes. They make a ton of mistakes. And you just can't. You have to go out and execute no matter how much talent you have. The other X factor for Weigman, okay, there's constants in a guy's game, knowing what he's good at. And then there's those variables where you walk into a game and you go, can he do this today? Mm-hmm. And can he get better in practice at this and bring it to the games? He's fantastic throwing over the middle of the field. No question. He's over the middle third of the field, one of the best passers in the country. But the games and that exact split in Power 5 games, when he has to start getting outside of that, getting out towards the numbers, throwing the ball down the sideline or towards the sideline, it's just not as good. And you see it. In the easy games, he's willing to let it rip out there. But let's take against Notre Dame 2 weeks ago. He was fine throwing over the middle. You saw slants, you saw in cuts, you saw seam routes, things like that. That's fine. When he had to throw to the outer 2/3 of the field, right? If you cut the field into 3 roughly 18-yard increments, right? 50 it should be 54 yards. That bothers me. Oh, that's an OCD thing. That bothers me. That's 53 instead of 54. But anyway, take the outer 2/3 of the field away from the middle. In that game, a 29.7 passing grade. You have to be able to expand the whole field, and I know the middle of the field is the trendy thing, and that's where we want to attack, and in play action and moving linebackers and safeties, and it's really important. It is. But you have to be somewhat effective outside towards the numbers too. And Weigman, when he has struggled, has not been able to expand that bubble of this 15 to 20-yard range and sometimes the deep balls of just, okay, you can make the throws right in front of you. I need you to fix your footwork and make the big throws. He's got the arm. It's not that he can't get it out there. He's got a really good arm. He was a baseball player, but there's a stark difference in his good games and his bad games of that bubble gets expanded, and he can make throws outside towards the numbers, and he uses all 53 yards. When he doesn't, it looks maybe not as bad as against Notre Dame because that's just a killer defense that he was playing, but it looks closer to that than it does in the games like we saw last week against, was it McNeese? Yeah, it was McNeese, where he, I think right at the moment, but I don't know if it's been reviewed yet, but he had like a 97 grade last week against McNeese. I know he can beat McNeese. I'm aware. He's got to come out here and throw the ball outside towards the numbers and succeed with that and beat this Gators team that really struggles in coverage.
Absolutely. And Dalton, on the other side of the ball, it really is about the quarterbacks in this game, and it's just how does Billy Napier handle this quarterback controversy? And, you mentioned it. You said, okay, usually when you play 2 quarterbacks, it's because they have 2 very different play styles. And while they're a little similar in that, Graham Mertz is not really a mobile threat, and Lagway can run. He's not an elite rusher, but he can run. They are completely different in terms of how they throw the ball. Graham Mertz is the veteran of the group. He will take care of the football, but also he is not going to push that ball downfield. Last year, he had a 1.4% turnover-worthy play rate. That was 3rd among all quarterbacks in the country behind only Bo Nix and Drew Aller. But his 6.7-yard average depth of target was also the 3rd lowest in the country as well. So he's not pushing the ball downfield at all. He takes care of the football, but he's not pushing the ball downfield. Lagway has the more potential of the two with his physical tools. He kind of lacks the experience that Mertz has, though, as just a true freshman, and kind of that youthful ignorance that you have. Like, hey, I want to go out there. I'm going to let it rip, man, against Samford. He had 5 big-time throws in that game against Samford. Currently, a 15.2% big time throw rate on the season. That is the highest in the country. He also leads the country with a 15.2 yard average depth of target. So you're talking about Graham Mertz, who is very safe, not going to push the ball downfield, take what's there. Lagway's like, no, F that, man. I'm going to go out and let it rip. And that's what he did against Stanford. So really, two quarterbacks who couldn't be different as passers, with one who's ultra conservative and one who, at least in one game that we saw, is going to go out there and let it rip. It's going to be really interesting to see, I guess, a good Texas A&M defense, too, how Florida employs these two quarterbacks.
First of all, I think Youthful Ignorance is the name of my next album, just so we're clear. That's great stuff. I need to know the cutoff of how old you have to be before it's not just Youthful Ignorance anymore. Anyway, I think it's a weird one right now. I mean, they're saying they're going to play both of them. Wouldn't you just be more comfortable if they just picked one way or the other?
Who would you pick, by the way? I think we got to talk about it.
I would pick Lagway.
So would I.
I just think the physical ability, we know what Graham Mertz is, and it's not that Graham Mertz is bad. Graham Mertz is reliable more than anything, and he won't lose you ball games, but I don't think this Florida team is loaded enough to just go with a quarterback that doesn't lose you ball games, right? When you think about it's a great trait to have, but eventually this is a team that needs a quarterback that can elevate them. And if Lagway is that number one recruit and he's that 5-star guy and he made multiple throws last week that Mertz I don't think is capable of making.
Physically not capable.
Physically not capable. And again, it's a different style, and you have playmakers. You have Trey Wilson, and you have, say, if you're taking safeties off with a threat of a deep ball, and then you open things up front for Montrell Johnson to run the ball, and even Lagway's a decent athlete, right, who could run the ball a few times himself. You don't get the mobility with Mertz, and you don't get that level of arm where, look, there's sometimes it's not just receivers. Sometimes you have to try a deep ball just to get him off you. Right? It's that sort of thing. I would go with Lagway all the way through. I know Mertz is a veteran. I know you don't want to take a guy's job because he got hurt. I understand that. But to rotate between two, it's something we've talked about with SMU lately, right? Now they've at least finally picked one. It's a weird dynamic, and it's a weird thing when you're trying to get either one, a rhythm passer, Graham Mertz, into a rhythm, or two, a really young kid in Lagway into a rhythm. It also makes for the amount of mystery that's in this game, because we have no idea. Is it one drive? Is it two drives? Is it back and forth the whole game? Is it hot hand? Whatever that means sometimes. Which way does this? I would go with Lagway on the physical tools alone. I think the Gators, they're already trying to throw a Hail Mary to save their season, but I don't know that a 2-quarterback system is the way to go.
And doesn't the fact they're already playing a 2-quarterback system in week 3 say this Lagway, Lagway's closer to winning this job than we thought.
Wouldn't have done it if Mertz didn't get hurt.
Right.
It would be Graham Mertz's team still, which is the awkward part of the team dynamic and leadership, and Mertz is a senior and all of that. They certainly wouldn't. It would still be Mertz's job, I think, for at least a few more games before maybe they turn to Lagway, or they see how the A&M game goes and the UCF game goes, or however that goes. To go from is it an open competition?
I feel like Mertz is going to start, and then it'll be a quick hook if he struggles.
Okay, is it because that's the thing? Is it more of that thing? Because this is the thing we don't even. Are they both guaranteed to play?
I don't know. He said we're going to play. He said we're going to play both of them. That was the exact words that Billy Napier said. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means drive in, drive out, or what that means. But Dalton also
just mean the other one comes in for victory formation. I mean, yeah,
it's weird. It's very weird. And also that's a great on-field breakdown of why I agree with you. Why Lagway should be in there, because he unlocks a part of the offense that simply Graham Mertz, as much as we like him, he's physically incapable of unlocking that part of the offense that Lagway can. There's an off-the-field reason, too. Billy Napier is kind of in survival mode right now. He is desperate to give this program hope for the future. Graham Mertz, as a redshirt senior, is not your future. The true freshman, number 1 quarterback in the country coming out of high school, that is your future. And for Billy Napier, who is, like I said, in preservation mode right now, he can go to them and say, hey, listen, if I'm not here, he might not be here either. This kid committed to me. So if I'm not here, he might enter the portal. That's another off-field reason why I think Lagway. I know it's nothing to do with on the field.
And there's a lot more of this. There's the cash, and there's everything else, the buyouts and everything that goes into that. And then there's the fans and what they're calling for. So it makes more sense to me that Lagway would be the guy. I understand it's always terrible if a guy's going to...
Mertz is good.
Yeah,
he's a good quarterback. It's not like he's a bad quarterback.
It reminds me, but we've seen this before, right? I mean, I can go all the way back to Jim Harbaugh and the 49ers when Alex Smith got hurt and Colin Kaepernick then, when do we take him out? When do we take him out? And then they just never took him out and they went to a Super Bowl. Like, we have seen this before in other situations. We go back to Tom Brady and Drew Bledsoe. So, well, I guess we have to leave Tom in here because we're just not – and they won a Super Bowl. So if I'm not saying the Gators are going to make a playoff run or anything, but at some point you just look what he – if Lagway had played an average game last week, I'd go, okay, just go back. But
yeah.
Spectacular.
And Dalton, the thing is too, is like we know with that schedule for Florida, with Graham Mertz at quarterback.
They need a ceiling.
They're not making a bowl game, probably, with Graham Mertz at quarterback with that schedule. With Lagway, we don't know what's going to happen. This kid could be the absolute superstar from day one, and all of a sudden, this Florida team that we thought, okay, they're not making a bowl game, now all of a sudden you got to recalibrate. So I think that's another thing, too, where it's like, with Graham Mertz, you know exactly what you're getting, and what you're getting against that schedule is probably not going to be enough. With Lagway, we don't know what we're getting. So I think that's a whole different thing, too.
At least we don't know what we don't know. But for all of that we just explained, I'm gonna take A&M.
Okay.
I think had they picked a quarterback by now, just one or the other, just so we know.
Yeah,
I would probably pick Florida, but that scares me. That does. At least I know who Texas A&M's quarterback is, even if he struggles in these spots and he's got to get better. I'll take Texas A&M 26-23. I honestly believe I have no idea what to expect in this game.
Neither do I.
I don't. I think you have two teams that are really, really trying to find it, and I'll take A&M. The one thing for A&M, they need Skorton in the pass rush to be better. If they can be better than they've been the first 2 weeks, I like A&M in this game, and just for I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to expect from this Gators offense. I really don't know because we don't know who's starting. We don't know how much each is going to play or what style of ball they're going to play. I'm not sure. So I have to take A&M just as the known commodity.
I hope they start Lagway. I really do because there's a lot of Florida fans right now are saying, hey, this could be the best quarterback we have since Tim Tebow. Right, so it's a high praise for maybe the greatest college quarterback of all time. But I got A&M winning this game as well, 31-17. I think the combination of Connor Weigman against a very, very vulnerable Florida defense that we saw in that Miami game already, and then the uncertainty under center for Florida right now that could lead to the Gators offense being static against a good Aggie defense as well. I got 31-17. I got Texas A&M winning this game, but I am fascinated as to what the heck Florida does at quarterback and how Connor Weigman looks against Florida's defense as well, and whether or not he can bounce back after a rough week one. So